Coaching assignment 1 by Charlie Taylor, Roles of a Coach. So first of all, a coach is a person who is involved in the direction, instruction and training of the operations of a sports team or of individual sports people. There are 4 roles of a coach that I'm going to talk about, and these are innovator, motivator, role model and friend. So first I'm going to talk about the innovator role. An innovator role is a coach whose team succeeds due to them providing personal practices, encouragement and strategies. They invent new methods and ways of developing athletes' knowledge and abilities. The coach's specialised creativity also inspires members of the team to come up with new things to try out, such as practice new skills or techniques, or try out some different types of ways that they can practice those skills or techniques. The second role that I'm going to go on about is the motivator role. A coach is needed to try and increase the level of effort that the athletes are putting into the exercise. They would do this by using praise and positive feedback. An athlete may always look at the negative details in their performance, which decreases their motivation. However, a motivator coach would always try and find positives to give them to make them more motivated to carry on. The next role is the role model. This is where a coach may be looked up to by others as an example to be copied. When a situation occurs, players are most likely to look to their coach for guidance and a source of information and knowledge. This is normally based around children. This especially happens when working with youth players, as I just said, as they're still developing and would want someone to be like. A player is more likely to listen to a coach who is their role model, meaning that the coach would be able to influence a player's development, and they can do this by a number of ways, such as social, personal, psychological, and their health. The last role that I'm going to talk about is the friend role of a coach. It's always good if a coach cannot just be a coach to their players, but also a friend. This will then provide the players with someone that they can talk to about any problems that they have or share their successes with. Within this role, it is important that a coach keeps any personal information that a player has shared with them confidential under respect of the athlete. If they share any of the personal information that they got told and they weren't supposed to, they may lose the respect and friendship that they had with the specific athlete, as they would lose their trust they had for you. Overall, a friend role is based on the amount of trust that the players have in the coach. So, in addition to having roles of a coach, they also have responsibilities. The 4 responsibilities that I'm going to talk about are knowledge of a coaching environment, health and safety, equal opportunities and professional conduct. So first I'm going to start off with knowledge of the coaching environment. This is big for a coach, as it is their responsibility to give information to others about where everything is. For example, if an athlete is in need of some first aid due to them landing on their foot funny when landing after receiving a netball and they roll their ankle, the coach should know where the first aid bag is located, so that the athlete can get treatment as soon as possible. A coach should know everything about the coaching environment, such as the location of the fire exits, showers, toilets, equipment, etc. This is just so that if a situation happens where one player is in need of any of these, they're able to get there ASAP. The next coaching responsibility I'm going to talk about is health and safety. All sports can carry a risk of injury. To cause an injury, there can be 2 main factors that can be the reason for it, and these are extrinsic and intrinsic factors. An extrinsic factor is something that is outside of the body which may have caused the injury. This can be things such as an icy surface or the wrong clothes worn, whereas an intrinsic factor is a physical characteristic of the body which may cause an injury, and this can be things such as overusing a muscle, causing it to strain, or muscle imbalance. An example of when an extrinsic factor occurs is if a coach was making a sprinter do training on an icy surface. This wouldn't be good health and safety from them, as the icy surface could cause the athlete to slip when running, which could lead to an injury occurring. In addition to this, an example of when an intrinsic factor would occur is when a sprinter has been training twice a day, trying to get ready for a competition. However, he overuses his muscles, and in a sprint he pulls his hamstring due to it being overused, therefore leading to him not being able to train for a while. A coach would notice that the weather has made a track icy, and should also notice when an athlete is training too much and overusing his body, and they should try and prevent this. Next, I'm going to go on to equal opportunities. This means that coaches should be choosing their sports squads around who has the best ability and who has put the best work rate in. Some coaches might not give any game time to a player due to things such as their age, ability, gender, race, ethnicity, religion, sexuality, or their socio-economic status. A coach shouldn't discriminate people because all people are different. Any of these players could be the best player on the team. The fourth and final role of a coach is their professional conduct. When being a coach, their professional conduct can be copied in the future experiences of athletes, therefore they should always behave appropriately. However, this doesn't just apply to coaches, it can also apply to players and also parents or the crowd. But it is most important for a coach. A coach needs to act and look professional when working at a high-level club. This would include things such as respecting the officials, looking job, for example, wearing a suit or the team's kit, promoting fair play and honesty, etc. In contrast to this, a coach who coaches at a lower level may not need to follow the professional conduct as much. This can be such as men's grassroots football coach. This is only because that they are coaching at a level where it can become aggressive and no one really cares about the way the men are acting or the coaches are dressing. So now I'm going to be given examples of coaches who have the roles and responsibilities and who would use specific skills and techniques to improve the performance of themselves and coaches and also athletes that they would be coaching. The first coach I'm going to talk about is Megan Watkin. She is a netball coach of Team BCC girls netball team. The coaching role which I've given to Meg is an innovator role. In my opinion, I think that Meg would suit this role as she is a very creative and out-of-the-box thinker. She provides her team with original new set plays which they can use to outsmart their opponents, leading to them scoring the points they need to win the matches against competing colleges. She also creates fun and entertaining training sessions and practices, which gets all team members involved and enjoy themselves, as well as learning new skills to add to their future performances, therefore helping them to win due to the opposition not knowing the new creative tactics they use. The responsibility which I think links to Meg the most is the responsibility of knowing the coaching environment. This is because due to her being a college lecturer alongside being the college netball coach, she is familiar with the location that she is coaching the sessions, which is the college sports hall. For example, Meg needs to know where all the netball equipment is kept and how she would get the netball poles out of the equipment cupboard. This also includes knowing where the changing rooms, toilets and first aid is. If she knows where all of this is kept, it would make it easier for her to be more organised and easier if a situation came up where a player may need first aid treatment ASAP. Lastly, the skill which I think Meg would be good at is problem solving. This is because when being in a coaching environment, especially in a team sport which requires getting a lot of equipment out, it can be very inconsistent, meaning that a problem could suddenly arise which Meg would have to sort out. This can include things such as not enough players at a training session to do a drill that she was going to do, or something such as transport not turning up when needing travel to an away match, and many more, including facilities, the equipment or opponents. The next coach I'm going to move on to is Glenn Mills, who is Usain Bolt's sprinting coach. I have given the role of a motivator. This is because I feel like a massive part of Bolt's sprinting success has come from the motivation and encouragement and encouragement of Glenn. He would push Bolt to his limits and make him work at 100% during training sessions so that the athlete could develop rapidly. Even if the athlete wasn't beating his personal best during a normal session, he would look at the positives such as the technique of the start being correct and work on that with his athlete to get their minds off the negatives which they have found throughout the session. The responsibility that I have given Glenn is the responsibility of the health and safety. This is because I feel like when training on a running track, there can be many health and safety issues that coach should be aware about. Like I said earlier in the screencast, there are 2 risk factors which can cause injuries, and these are extrinsic and intrinsic. Extrinsic risks that could occur when doing a sprinting training session could be the weather conditions. For example, if it was a cold night, this could cause the track to become slightly icy, therefore becoming a risk to the athlete as it would be very slippery. It would be Glenn's responsibility to notice this and take safety precautions, such as taking the session inside and doing something else, as he wouldn't want to risk the athlete being injured due to slipping over and hurting themselves. An intrinsic factor which could occur during the session would be if the athlete rolled their ankle. Even though this may not seem like much, Glenn should notice that they shouldn't carry on because if they do, it could cause something worse. So it would be better to rest it until the next session. Overall, it would reduce the athlete from being injured. Lastly, the skill that I have given Glenn is time management. Due to Glenn Mills being an elite coach, he would have many tasks to finish before he has to carry out a session. However, due to him being an elite coach for an elite sprinter, he wouldn't have any other job to go to, so he would have a lot of time on his hands to complete all these tasks needed to produce sessions which would be beneficial and enjoyable for the athlete. There are many responsibilities that coaches have, which can be time consuming, so he would need to make sure that he does everything quickly and correctly. For example, being a coach, Glenn would have to make sure that his athlete knows where to go, when to go, and what time to go, and if the facility that they need is booked, and that the equipment that they will be using is set up in the right areas, and that the session is planned and appropriate arrangements are made. And that stuff is all needed before the session started. There were also things that Glenn would need to think about during the session, which links to his time management, such as having the right amount of time for each section of the session and making sure that they are working on components which are needed to be developed on. The next coach which I'm going on to is Tim Legg, who is a coach for the BTC boys team and is also a lecturer at Bridgewater and Taunton College. The role which I have given Tim Legg is a role model. This is because, first of all, he is a football player himself, which would therefore make the boys of the team think that whatever he does is a good example of becoming a future footballer. When taking a football session with the team, Tim Legg would be representing the sport of football and should be setting a good example for the boys. His behaviour when doing these sessions would be more professional and appropriate, such as using the appropriate language with the athletes and wearing the kit in which the team wears. Even though it's only college level, he should be following a professional and adult behaviour, as he is responsible for the behaviour of the athletes, as he should try and encourage positive behaviour throughout the whole squad. When being a role model, Tim's attitude towards training sessions would always have an impact on the players' attitudes towards sessions. If he is enthusiastic about a session that he has planned, it's more likely that a larger amount of the players will be enthusiastic about it as well. The responsibility that I have given to him is given equal opportunities. I think that this responsibility is relevant to him as a coach because he is coaching at a college level, and at this level any students are able to join the college teams. So as a coach, Tim would need to ensure that everyone gets equal opportunities and recognising that inequalities in the team and trying to solve these issues which are around them. In addition to this, when Tim wants to plan football sessions, he would need